All right, let's get straight to it. 2010 Audi A4 2.0. Today we're changing the upstream and downstream O2 sensors. Your downstream is a 4-pin sensor and your upstream is a 6-pin sensor. This is the location here. This is your upstream, the one before the cat, and the one right down here, that's your downstream, the one behind the cat. I'm gonna start by disconnecting the battery. So we have to take the spare tire up. Once the tire is out, remove this cover, and now you can access your battery, and we can remove the negative battery terminal. That looks like it's a 10 or 8 millimeter. I'm gonna say it's a 10. All right, so there's a harness here for the upstream one. It's loose here, but normally it's connected to something. So we're going to disconnect this harness. Press right here and then pull, and that should disconnect this harness. All right, so now to get this one up, this is the upstream. To get that one out, we're going to use a couple of different tools. We can use this right here. If you use this, then you don't have to remove this harness, because this slides right down on the wire and it sits off to the side, and you can get your extension right down there and past this wire, this harness. But if you're using one of these or a regular socket, and you're brave enough to cut that wire to put a regular socket on there, you most likely want to remove this harness, because your extension, this is pretty much right in the way of where your extension would be. So I'm just gonna go ahead and remove that, since I have my battery already unplugged. All right, so now I can reach my extension down here and try to use this one. Set it right down on there over the wire. I'm going to get my extension, put it right there, and try to get that out. So this was my setup. I have my extension right down there on it. Like I said, if you're brave enough, you can cut this wire. Just make sure you're able to get out the old part, because you're taking this part out anyways, and you can use a regular deep socket. But I have the extension there. See, this is where my plug was plugged in. And this is what I mean when I said that would have been in the way. So at my ratchet, I held this part with my left hand, and with my right hand I used the ratchet, and it gave. So now you can see it's ratcheting out now. So I can go ahead and I can take that one out. Look at that difference between the new and the old. All right, the new one already has anti-seize on there, so time to grab the new one and start to hand thread it back in. This is the upstream, once again, with the 6 pins. Make sure you put the right one in. This one has 6 pins. And once you get it nice and tight, this time you can't use a regular socket. You have to use one of these, or one of these, or if you can get a wrench in there, or another special tool that you may have. But I'm gonna go ahead and use this. Drop it right down on top, and my extension and my ratchet. And I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna need 2 hands, so I'm gonna stop the camera so I can get this tight. All right, so it's nice and tight. So one thing I see is this part came with the longer wire. So in order to make it not drag down on the exhaust, I'm gonna loop it over the top of this and then plug it in to the harness. Otherwise it's going to droop down and sit down on that exhaust, and it's gonna melt. In the kit, it came with these zip ties. If you don't have them, just go ahead and use regular zip ties. And I'm going to use this and I'm going to kind of tie it further out of the way to make sure, we want to make 100% certain that none of this drags down on that exhaust. Now this one to the back is harder to get to because it's at a certain angle to where it's sideways. But my trick for getting it is with just a regular 22mm wrench. If you come right here in this corner, and you can drop your wrench down there, and if you're lucky enough, you can angle your wrench a certain way. You can reverse it and try. See, I got my wrench right down on it, and it's going to be hard to get a really good you know, torque on this from this angle, but you can try. And if you can't get enough leverage, I'm going to show you a trick with this wrench. Usually when adding leverage to a wrench, most people would double wrench it, but when you have the box end, you can't really double wrench it. So what I have here is a wrench extender, and I'm going to just attach that to the wrench. Once it's attached, it looks something like this, and now I have way more leverage, and I can go ahead and turn that loose just like that. Now that it's loose, I can get down there with a shorter wrench or one of these and try to get that out of there by hand. All right, so the harness for the other one, the Downstream, is over here on the driver's side. You have to reach down here to see. You have to rock that side to side until it pops out, and you can see the harness here. This is the 4-pin harness. Let's go ahead and get that released, and then the wire on the back, when you follow that wire, you'll see that there's a couple of zip ties on that wire. You want to cut those zip ties so you can remove that whole wire and O2 sensor. All right, so let's get our new Downstream O2 sensor, and I'm going to go from here and start to screw it in. Gotta get that wire down there, so because that wire is going to spin as well. All right. All right, I got it hand tight so far. So now all I gotta do, let's go ahead and take this up. That might give us like 1 more inch of clearance to see it. All right, so now I'm gonna straighten this wire out because this wire is twisted after twisting that part in. And once the wire is straightened out, we're gonna follow the route of the old wire, and we're gonna zip tie it in place where the old zip tie was, and eventually we're gonna run it over here to the harness and plug it in. All right, now that the harness is plugged up and the wire is ran, I'm gonna go with the short wrench in order to tighten this back up. I don't really need as much leverage to tighten it up as I did to get it out. That's why I'm going with the short wrench. And if you're able to get it down there, you should be able to get enough grip on that part to turn it and get it nice and snug. Just like that. All right, so now that both parts are fully changed, we can go ahead and plug this piece back in. Okay. Now just do one last check, make sure everything is in place, and we can go ahead and put our cover back on. Both new plugs are in, both new O2 sensors, I should say. So only thing left to do now is reconnect that negative battery terminal. So that pretty much wraps it up. That's how you change your upstream and downstream O2 sensors on an Audi A4. If you liked the video, you thought it was helpful, be sure to hit the like, subscribe button. Also, if you feel this video saved you some money, don't be afraid to leave a little tip in the Cash App. The more reactions and support that I receive is the more content that I'll make.